A controversial study that found there has been no slowdown in global warming has been supported by new research. Many researchers had accepted that the rate of global warming had slowed in the first 15 years of this century. But new analysis in the journal Science Advances replicates findings that scientists have underestimated ocean temperatures over the past 2 decades. With the revised data, the apparent pause in temperature rises between 1998 and 2014 disappears. The idea of a pause had gained support in recent years, with even the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, reporting in 2013 that the global surface temperature has shown a much smaller increasing linear trend over the past 15 years than over the past 30 to 60 years. But that consensus was brought into question by a number of studies, of which a report by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration published in Science last year was the most significant. Researchers suggested that the temperatures of the oceans were being consistently underestimated by the main global climate models. The authors showed that the ocean buoys used to measure sea temperatures tend to report slightly cooler temperatures than the older ship-based systems. Back in the 1990s, ship measurements made up the vast majority of the data, whereas now the more accurate and consistent buoys account for 85% of measurements. When the researchers corrected the data to take this cold bias into account, they concluded that the oceans had warmed 0.12 degrees Celsius per decade since 2000, nearly twice as fast as previous estimates of 0.07 degrees. As a result, the authors said that the warming experienced in the first 15 years of the 21st century was virtually indistinguishable from the rate of warming between 1950 to 1999, a time generally acknowledged to have seen significant rates of warming from human emissions of CO2. But Gerald Meal, a climate scientist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research who has published on the hiatus and attributed it to changes in the Pacific Ocean, said that notwithstanding this work, something really did happen, temporarily, to the planet's climate in the 2000s that could be called hiatus and is worth understanding. The early 21st century slowdown, or hiatus, was mostly a product of internally generated naturally occurring climate variability, said Meal by email. It was notable compared to the previous 20 years when there was accelerated warming, also with a big contribution from internally generated variability. Therefore, for Meal, it's not an either-or. To say the slowdown never occurred is to ignore the important aspects of internal variability, and to say that global warming stopped in the early 2000s ignores the important long-term warming trend due to increasing greenhouse gases.